Hi all and welcome to the Truth, Honour and Integrity Show. Oh dear, the clowns are up to their old tricks, and we shall overcome, as the song says, and hopefully my voice is not like Pinky and Perky and the Chipmunk and all kinds of other fun and games, and we can actually get on with the show. Right, oh dear. These clowns are defy belief. Right, tonight brings you the usual montage mix of several topics, some hinted at, some reading between the lines, some in your face, and some things to soothe you, but some things that will blows your head to smithereens, and a few laughs along the way. We're probably going to drop Q&A now, given the delay, which is a pity, but I don't think many will miss that. So, some news first. Randy, Alan and I will likely be doing a show sometime this month on fresh air tokens and the implications of technology, so look forward to that. On August the 11th, Alan from Circle of White Light will be doing a show called An Evening for Thomas, and yes, I will be in the hot seat for that show. So that's August the 11th, and you best get your brains, notepads and graphs ready for Saturday's show, From Russia with Love 6. It is a shorter show than the previous one, but I promise you it's jam-packed with information that will leave most of you going OMG, and Wells the Fargo aplenty. That will be at 8 PM Eastern Standard Time this coming Saturday. Right, let's get into some news. We have a load of sub-intel, a load of intel, some interesting op-ed pieces, and near the end some booming op-ed pieces. Right, drug overdose deaths. Just some good news. In America has fallen for the first time since 1999, according to preliminary official data. Now, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention figures showed a drop of 5.1% in 2018 from the year before. And Health and Human Services Secretary Alex Azar said this was down to a decline in deaths linked to opioids. So that's good news. There's still a long way to go, as the research shows that an estimated 68,500 people died in 2018, but it's an improvement from 72,224 people who died in 2017. Hopefully we can get that down to near zero and get rid of those ridiculous drugs. Labour Secretary Alex Costa resigned on Friday amid intense scrutiny of his role as a US attorney a decade ago in a deal with Jerry Epstein that allowed the financier to plead guilty to several lesser offences in a sex crimes case which involved underage girls, like over 100 of them, which is what the media will not tell you. Now, Mr. Trump told reporters Friday that Acosta had decided to step aside, and he called Costa a great Labour secretary, not a good one, and a tremendous talent. This was him, not me, Trump said of his resignation decision, as Acosta stood by and said, "I said to Alex, you don't have to do this." Now, back in 2008, a plea deal in Florida came under renewed scrutiny in light of Epstein's indictment charges recently on child sex trafficking in New York. And on a press conference on Wednesday, Acosta defended the role as federal prosecutor in brokering the deal for Epstein, but lawyers for alleged victims criticised his explanation. And of course, the Democrats called for him to appear at a congressional hearing in 2 weeks. Drake, 2 weeks. Well, so he said a state attorney in Palm Beach, County, which is a den of iniquity in and of itself, was preparing to allow Epstein to plead to a single charge of solicitation that did not make reference to the age of the female minor. And that deal would have carried no jail time and would have required Epstein to register as a sex offender. But they wanted to see Epstein go to jail, Acosta said. And the former state attorney for Palm Beach at the time of the Epstein plea deal released a statement disputing Acosta's account following the news conference and stated, "I can emphatically state that Mr. Acosta's recollection of this matter is completely wrong," according to Barry E. Krishna, who added that Acosta would have moved forward with a 53-page indictment that his office had drafted. Barry Kirshner, born in New York, born to Jewish parents. Oops. Now, the recent focus of QAnon's Bill Maher, born in New York, born to Jewish parents, and I will keep repeating it because it is of vital importance to recognise the problems in a high percentage way all stem in one region. It is the hell pit, and it has to be addressed. It's not saying there's not these same criminals and pedophiles elsewhere, but there seems to be a vast majority circled in the New York area. Right, quick sound check, okay? Anyone on me, wait, so I can get on with it. Good. Right, the mystery of where are we next? Federal Trade Commission voted this week to approve a roughly $5 billion settlement with Facebook that could end an investigation into its privacy practices, according to people familiar with the matter, but was not authorised to speak on record, a deal that could result in unprecedented government oversight of the company. Interesting. And the settlement adopted with the FTC's 3 Republicans supporting it and 2 Democrats against it, could end a wide-ranging probe into Facebook's mishandling of users' personal information that began more than a year ago. And the FTC $5 billion punishment against Facebook sets a new record as the largest penalty ever assessed against the tech company that broke a past promise to the government to improve its privacy practices. And the matter from here rests in the hands of the Justice Department, which typically must finalise FTC settlements, although the DOJ rarely has upended them. Right, on we go. The question on that piece is, where's the $5 billion going? Is it going to the people whose privacy they've invaded? Or is it just going to disappear into the cloud? Like, you know, where's all the money for Deutsche Bank and the mortgage theft and the LIBOR rate? Where did all that go? So it's okay, fine, and Facebook $5 billion, but you've got to recompense the people who were damaged. No one's saying where the $5 billion's going, which is a typical theme, is it not? Now, what's come up this week, and this will be the second of details, as we've got another update from Kevin Annett. But the disappearance in 1983 of a 15-year-old daughter of a Vatican employee came up again on Saturday following excavations this week at the Vatican City Cemetery. And the Vatican said it had discovered 2 sets of bones under a stone slab that will be formally opened this week. And the new discovery came after the Vatican on Thursday pried open the tombs of 2 19th century German princesses in the cemetery of the Pontifical Teutonic, oh those knights again, college in hopes of finding the remains of Emanuela Orlandi. Now, Orlandi's family has received a tip that she might be buried there, but the tombs turned out to be empty, creating yet another mystery about where the dead princesses were. Oops. Now, the Vatican allegedly has vowed to keep investigating and noted that any bones in the tombs might have been displaced during structural work carried out on both the college and the cemetery near St. Peter's Basilica back in the 1800s. Yeah, right. And more recent decades. On Saturday, Vatican spokesman Alessandro Giusotti said further searches had centred on the areas adjoining the princesses' tombs, and he said investigators had located 2 more or sets of bones under a stone slab manhole covering the inside of the Teutonic College itself. Area was sealed off and will be opened in the presence of forensic experts who no doubt are in the back pocket of the Vatican on July the 20th. Yet again, growing evidence of the crimes against the American people performed by the US military. As a report came out this week, it wasn't the only one, I didn't have time to put the other one in, to do with ticks and causing Lyme disease. With the use of firefighting foam that contains potentially dangerous chemical compounds that could have serious health consequences for the workers who handled it and also those who live nearby. And the Department of Defense had identified 401 military sites that could be contaminated with the toxic compounds known as PFAS. And the Environmental Working Group and Northeastern University have mapped at least 712 documented cases of PFAS contamination across 49 states as of this month. And that map includes contamination on military bases, along with industrial plants, commercial airports, and firefighting training sites. Now, the PFAS substances are found at high levels in a concentrate for firefighting foam called AFFF, or aqueous film forming foam. Try saying that when you're drunk. Thankfully I don't drink, so which seeped into groundwater and at times tainted the drinking water. And the Environmental Working Group estimates that more than 100 million Americans could be drinking tap water contaminated with PFAS, dubbed the forever chemical. Why? Because PFAS don't naturally break down in the environment, which explains why some water sources are still contaminated from use that was decades ago. Now, the Centre for Disease Control recognises an array of health effects linked to PFAS exposure, such as, oh dear, lowering a woman's chance of getting pregnant, issues with childhood development, and even cancer. And while there's a patchwork of regulations across state lines, there is no legally enforceable federal drinking water standard when it comes to PFAS. Oh my. As of July, as of this month, the Department of Defense has spent more than 550 million. No, the Department of Defense has spent zero. They spent the people's 550 million. Let's get it right. On PFAS investigations and responses, including providing bottled water and in-home water filtration systems, according to Heather Babb, who's a DoD spokesman. But to date, the DoD has not come up with a plan to actually clean up the PFAS contamination across the country, something that the Pentagon said would roughly cost an estimated $2 billion. Well, that can come out of the military budget. $2 billion out of $987 billion is not much, is it? Where are we next? A federal appeals court ruled Donald Trump can partially defund Planned Parenthood while the abortion business lawsuit against his administration's new rules moves forward. And the Trump administration finalised an administrative rule that would partially defund the Planned Parenthood abortion business and deprive it of as much as $60 million in taxpayers' dollars. So the previous governments have been given $60 million of our money for those clowns. Eugenics. And this action adds to Mr. Trump's record of defunding Planned Parenthood, and the abortion chain receives about 50 to 60 million in what is known as Title X funds annually, but that could change now that the new rules are being implemented, and the administration changes to Title X family planning grants have angered the abortion chain Planned Parenthood, which has then prompted a lawsuit, but they provide hope for life-affirming pregnancy centres, which can now compete with the abortion giant for the federal funds. Now, Title X funds are supposed to be used to help low-income women and men receive birth control, cancer screenings and other health care services. Now, while the tax money cannot be used to pay for abortions, it indirectly funds Planned Parenthood's vast abortion business. Yet again, more financial skullduggery, and quite why the FBI or CIA hasn't gone in and audited that company, because clearly they're using legalese and clever methods to divert the money into something that they're not supposed to do. That is a criminal offence and should be not only defunded but shut down altogether. House Babel Speaker Nancy Pelosi on Monday urged support for an up-and-coming resolution that would condemn tweets by President Trump in which he said a group of minority liberal congressmen should go back to their home countries. It's not exactly what he said. And in a letter to Democratic colleagues, Pelosi said that Trump had gone beyond his own low standards, using disgraceful language about members of Congress. Dear me. Pot and kettle. Oh dear. And that Democrats would forcefully respond to these disgusting acts. And her announcement of the resolution came as Trump doubled down on his criticism of the female lawmakers, using them of racist hatred, and suggest they apologise to the United States, Israel and him. I mean, notice that there's one of those incidents per week now where one line is twisted out of all reason, and then the media just blow it all up and then they all start arguing. How is that helping our country? It's just not. And it's not designed to, because they've got nothing. More than 820 million people worldwide are still going hungry. I think that figure's higher, personally. But then this is a UN report, and they're bad liars. And that says reaching the target of zero hunger by 2030. Yes, zero hunger was trying to kill everyone off, that's why. Is an immense challenge, and the number of people with not enough to eat has risen for the third year in a row, and they're blaming population increases. Not really. And they said this came after a decade when real progress was made. No, it wasn't. And the UN says that the pace of progress in halving child stunting and reducing the number of low birth weight babies is too slow, which jeopardises the chance of achieving another of the Sustainable Development Goals. All this is in the hands of the UN themselves, and they are responsible for it, all of it. For every child that goes without food, the UN is 100% responsible. Why? Because they've been given vast quantities of funds out of the trust for humanitarian programs over decades. And where's the evidence of any improvement? There is none. It's got worse. And they spent all that money on lackeys and fancy committees, all paying themselves large salaries, and people wonder why I don't trust or wish to replicate the corporate business structures, where all the money generated goes to generally overfed fat bastards travelling around first class and living the high life at everyone else's expense. That's how it works. That's the corporate structure. They just gorge on everything and leave the people connected to the company with nothing. And this is the UN. And the UN should be held criminally responsible for all the famines globally, as they've had the funds to fix it and spent it on their cronies. Period. There are times when during this job, well, Kim and I wonder, what the hell are we doing? And this is the latest pile of stupidity that goes beyond all reasoning. And following on the tales of eating Tide Pods, here's another one. The police are now warning about the dangers of wasping. Yes, you heard that right. Or using wasp spray to get high. Oh my God. As an alternative to meth. After several people overdosed on the insect killer in West Virginia, officers at Boone County Police Department say they've seen a rise in people using the spray to get a meth-like high. Some use the spray by itself as a meth substitute, while others combine it with the drug. And people may also use hot metal sheets to crystallize the liquid so it can be inhaled or injected. According to a report, bug spray contains active ingredients called pyrethroids, which penetrate the insect's nervous system to stun and kill them. But when humans ingest pyrethroids, who thinks? I don't know where these people come from, and they get up and go, I think I'll get high on wasp spray. You know, who comes up with it? And apparently they interfere with normal nerve signalling and causing abnormal, you're already abnormal for taking it, sensation and sometimes seizures and or paralysis. And people get off on that, seizures and paralysis. I do wonder sometimes, I really do. And oh dear, where is it? I've got to play it. Well, you're all going to die. The latest, well, you're all going to die, is yet again there's an Ebola epidemic in the Democratic Republic of Congo, which according to the World Health Organization is now considered a global health emergency, really. And in a formal declaration that many public health where it's called long overdue. Yes, because they've got vaccines ready for it, that's why. And there's a load of vaccines sitting on the shelf because not many people's using them. Except Mr. Trump. He should buy herself a new pair of sandals, was the last ones keep flip-flopping. So emergency declarations are issued sparingly, apparently, and reserved for outbreaks that pose a serious threat to public health and could spread to other countries. Okay, perhaps we should have an emergency declaration on the World Health Organization, and because they do pose a serious threat to public health, period. And they are meant to increase international attention, yeah, and get all the media saying we're all going to die again, and aid to help stop epidemics. Now, according to the World Health Organization, on Monday, the Congo outbreak has affected 2,512 people and allegedly killed 1,676 of them. And the disease has defied efforts to control its spread in the northeastern part of the country, which is a conflict zone. Oh my, I wonder who's in there. UN, the IMF, under constant threat from warring militias. Now, the director of the World Health Organization has described the outbreak as one of the world's most dangerous viruses in one of the world's most dangerous areas. Yeah, right. President Donald Trump said on Thursday that a US Navy ship today has destroyed an Iranian drone in a defensive action, which is escalating already high tensions in the oil-rich Gulf region. Why has it got to be described as oil-rich? You know, rhetorical. Now, the USS Boxer, an amphibious assault ship, took down the drone today in the Strait of Hormuz, Trump said. All very childlike to me. Well, they took our ball away, so we'll take theirs. Wrong thinking and beyond stupid. Why are we even in that region? Imagine if Iranian gunships were going up and down the east coast by Washington and Virginia or New York. So why are we going up and down there? Right. Let's throw a few questions in. Why is Android in Ireland? No idea. Nobody knows why she's there, including her own party, because they've cut her off. Maybe she was testing some more stairs, who knows. Thomas mentioned last week that he has a few sources of news and information that he visits regularly. Can he pass it on? It's not that sort of news and information. It's certainly not off the internet. You know, the only two I recommend is Randy Morgan's and Alan. That's it. I have no time for the rest of them. Some are okay, some are not. Some are faction people, as we've covered many times now. And it's up to individuals to make their own choices. And this next question is indicative and is going to get the same answer. I've listened to Laura Leon, now calls herself Louder Leon, and her husband George for about 2 years. Can you give an opinion on them? Basically, no. The last 3 people that I was asked to give an opinion on caused mayhem in the group, and we don't need that type of drivel. If you feel that they're okay, fine, We don't, fine also. But I'm not. We've had enough upset in the group without me answering those type of questions. Sorry. Let's see if we can get through this. On last show's topic of 10% of any given country's population to donate $1 or €1, I agree with your assessment. Most are not interested in helping themselves. Aren't 85 to 90% of them Synths or Morkins? Yes, that is suspected. And what if the message was couched as, if you're an organic soul, please give €1 or $1. Stand up and be counted. Wouldn't this target who's being helped to emerge? It's been tried. More so in Ireland. Alan tried it. He got one inquiry. That was it. One inquiry. Everyone else said it was a scam. Whilst they're being scammed by everybody else. But well. If baptism is an occult ritual, how can we undo or remove that? At this moment it's rather awkward because you're tied into the system. Sovereignty, when released, will fix that. With the developments this week on Jeffrey Epstein, is it more shenanigans as to what they want us to see? We know he's the fall guy, but are we taking on another ride of distractions? It's quite possible. Time will tell. This has gone on forever. It's when you consider our show outed Nexium before the mainstream or media got hold of it. It's coming up to 2 years ago now, and here we are 2 years later. Some are being charged, but not much. Where's the rest of them? After 2 years. And this Epstein thing has the hallmarks of faction games to me. I could be wrong. It just smells faction, where some will get thrown under the bus and others will walk away. But I'm always open and welcome being wrong on that. But we've seen so many promises of this, that and the other, and none of them, or hardly any of them, have been delivered, have they? Boom, 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 it's all happening, big week, and then nothing. 2 weeks. So I'll be happy, more than happy, to be proven wrong, but it smacks of faction games. If Epstein has been dragged in, why isn't the Clintons not being dragged in? When their name's all over it. Everybody knew it 10 years ago. Well, a lot of people did anyway. Why haven't they been dragged in with him? Why is Prince Andrew still pouncing around? When we start seeing them being thrown, not arrested, thrown in jail, then we can say, at last something's happening. But I'm not building up hopes, because we've seen it too many times. Can aspects of the galactic central sun be incorporated into our grounding and shielding practices in the same way you use fire for the intention of repelling parasites and energy vampires on all levels? And if so, what are the particular properties of the galactic central sun that dark forces can't handle? We have a central sun below our feet, as well as a galactic one. The one below our feet has more energy. That's beneficial here. Or maybe you can tune into that and refocus or transmute some of that energy to change things. But the thing that two words that the dark forces can't handle is love and truth. That's it. How are we for time? Let's see if I can get through this rather long one. I wish people would keep them shorter. I had some reoccurring experiences of seeing beings in my mind's eye while being in a quiet space. I read an article about something like that. The woman was saying that it could be there are back doors which one could be unaware of. She was offering help in dealing with this. But what she means by back doors is when you open the channels through various methods, some of which I will cover later. Yoga being one of them, Tai Chi another. As I'm doing the shielding, I was wondering whether this was the case. It's possible if you haven't cleared your field. Again, I'll go into detail on that later. Also, I've been doing ayahuasca rituals in the past. Oh dear. And I don't know if this has to do with it as well. Absolutely. You opened up channels and you allowed spirit in. Sorry. It's I blame Graham Hancock and a few other alt media goons for promoting that shit. Plus the fact you've got so-called shamans who don't even who are not even trained. Bad stuff. A while ago I visited a place to see if I could help as a volunteer in a garden project, and when I was there the owner told me she was doing ayahuasca rituals in Portugal as well. I was on guard then and I did notice she was acting a bit strange. Go figure. And when at home laying in bed I saw some not nice beings appear. Where was I next? When I was with somebody who was working with the Arcturians, I saw a big eye appear. This reminded me of another situation years ago where an almond-shaped eye appeared during a meditation in the group, as if I was being observed. And I was told this was an Anunnaki, and a good one, they said. Arcturians are not all good. Sorry, just no. Anunnaki, forget it. Now lately I had an acupuncture treatment, and again a being appeared at the start of the session. Well, again, unless you a shield, acupuncture's opening up holes, is it not? Again, these things that people need to take notice of. Am I seeing astral beings? Yes. Or could it be also helping entities, which some people claim to be the case? Have you asked them why they keep turning up? If you've asked them, are they for your help or not? You should be able to, at this point, recognise the frequency of what's good and what's not, and deal with it. Otherwise, stay away from ayahuasca and all kinds of other Arcturians and Anunnakis and all these type of people talking out of their ass. Sorry, but they just are. And they're putting a lot of people in danger. Maybe my shield's not strong enough. Maybe you need to clear it before you shield. Clear your whole energy field. Otherwise you're sealing it in. So that would be my advice. Clear it all out. And then shield. If you can view what your space is, it's a lot easier. Not everyone can, sadly. Right. have they inverted the name Ra from Radomir? That question, no. No, it's Radomir. Mir means peace, by the way. But yeah, I get the Master Mason, Mary Magdalene. But no. Right, we're going to have a music break, and then we'll be back with sub-intel and intel in one sweep. Hi all, and welcome back. We're going to do the sub-intel and the intel before the next music break. The sub-intel is previously touched on topics, indicative pointers or confirming pieces that have been put out previously, or hints. So, first one is President Trump is considering replacing Dan Coates as the Director of National Intelligence and is holding informal meetings with potential candidates. And sources said that Trump had spoke to 2 people in the past week about the job, and among the candidates he is considering are General Joseph Ford, who's the current chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and Fred Fleitz, who served as the Chief of Staff to National Security Advisor John Bolton. Looks like half method to me. You're going to hear that term a lot. I've mentioned it previously, I've just shortened it. So what does it mean? Half, higher, attention, fire. Watch out for more halves. To the question, I should have added this person's name in to the people I bothered to check up. Tyler Durden on Zero Hedge. He does some really good investigative pieces, and I read a piece of his this week about a honeypot blackmail. The message to him is your destination point was in Virginia. The dollar volume of homes purchased by foreign buyers from April 2018 through March 2019 has dropped by 36% from the previous year. The Chinese were the leading buyers for the 7th consecutive year, purchasing an estimated 13.4 billion worth of residential property, and yet that was a 56% decline from the previous 12 months, and comparatively the biggest percentage drop of all foreign buyers. Stephen Mnuchin saying funds will run out in September bears out what we said previously, except it's not September. They were struggling to make payroll as of this Monday. Following on from last week, Stephanie Nisnik, an actress who appeared in Star Trek Insurrection, died this week, aged 52. Irish actor Carl Shields, who starred as Robbie Quinn on the TV soap opera Fair City, has died, aged 47. The latest BS from Facebook is FaceApp, where an AI-generated system that digitally enhances your picture, and you can allegedly see how you're going to age. All very cool, except it's not for those that think straight. This is another cleverly disguised facial recognition database, and people are participating in it and then crying about Big Brother whilst they participate. Those that never thought of that as a use for it need to future think more. Think of how items can be weaponized against us, because almost all technology is weaponized against us currently. So anything future will be the same unless real changes are made. The CEO of one of America's most influential Israel lobby groups has stepped down amid reports of a funding crisis. Oops. Josh Block's resignation at the head of the Israel project comes less than a year after an undercover documentary revealed many of the group's covert activities. Donors and trustees are likely to have viewed how the organisation allowed itself to be infiltrated by a reporter as a serious lapse. And in a note to supporters, however, Block blamed the polarised political climate in the United States for making it more difficult for the group to recruit, or people are starting to see through the lies. And the note was seen by the JTA, an American Jewish news agency. Now, Block refused to speak on the record to JTA, and the funding to the Israel project dropped by almost one half, based on the group's most recently available tax returns, which predates the undercover documentary. Now, one of the Israel project funders is convicted tax chief Adam Milstein, and the undercover investigation which revealed in it last year. And in it, the group's fundraising director at the time privately admits that Milstein funds the Israel project as well as Canary Mission, which is an anonymous anti-Palestinian blacklisting website. This is what the Jewish people have to stop giving funds. They're not helping their own people or the country of Israel. This is clowns. Now, the film The Lobby USA was made by Al Jazeera Investigations Unit but never broadcast on the Qatari channel after a massive censorship push by the Israel lobby. Go figure. And their undercover reporter observed the Israeli project from the inside after becoming an intern in 2016 and later even being offered a job. Now, the Electronic Intifada released all 4 parts of the film last year, and the film reveals that the Israel project is running a massive online influencing campaign. And the group, predictably, runs a series of Facebook pages which appear to be about subjects unrelated to Israel, such as history, women's rights and environmentalism. But in reality, the pages are run by the Israel project that have produced content that has reached millions of viewers. That's how the algorithms work. They just funnel people to these pages. A lot of it is just random topics, and then maybe like 25% of it would be like Israel or Jewish based, according to a staffer who worked for the Israeli project on the pages. They also said they have a lot of side projects that we are trying to influence the public debate with. And that's why Israel project is a secretive thing in our country. Isn't that spying? Foreign country passing their propaganda. This is according to Sashtel, Jordan Sashtel, who told Al Jazeera undercover reporter, and he stated, because we don't want people to know that these side projects are associated with the Israel project. Now, in February, the Electronic Intifada revealed that Facebook had given a green light to this secretive influence campaign on behalf of a foreign state. Our Facebook spokesperson claimed to the Electronic Intifada that the influence campaign pages don't violate any of Facebook's pages policy. Well, it wouldn't, would it? Given Zuckerberg with a silent F runs it, and we all know where he's from and related to. This was sent in by one of the members, and it's something we've covered in the past, and we've tried to engage privately behind the scenes of the fun and games going on in Puerto Rico currently. Now, apparently a scandal has broken out in Puerto Rico since the arrests by the FBI of former Secretary of Education Julia Keller, and plus some others related to the current government. And what it unearthed was a scandalous Telegram private chat that includes the governor, Ricardo Rossello, and his close circle of associates has been made public. Now, the true character of these people have now been exposed, and no one is being spared. In Spanish, it has some slang, and the person who's been contacting us about helping in Puerto Rico said, "I'm wordless and astonished. All the people involved have either resigned or are being dismissed." And yesterday the governor came from his interrupted vacation in France and asked for forgiveness. But this is morally and politically unforgivable, according to the spokeswoman. One of the mentioned was the federally named ex-police reform monitor, and he went to the FBI to denounce the situation and gave them the chat. There was a private party meeting this week, and all requested that the governor's resignation in 24 hours or he will be impeached starting next week. So that's what happens when you interfere in wrong places. Well, we mentioned the story earlier about Mr. Trump and allegedly hurling racial invective at 4 non-white lawmakers. I notice they differentiate that. They don't differentiate when people are calling Trump as being racist, as non-black or non-brown or non-Hispanic. Why do they use that term? Well, listen, those that have listened to From Russia with Love will know why. Now, he accused one of the first 2 Muslim women in Congress of harbouring animosity towards Jews. Well, actually, that's up to the Jewish people to deal with, not an American president personally, but we all know there's trouble in that sort of camp. And in an apparent attempt to claim the moral high ground in an explosive contest over identity, patriotism and bigotry. Now, Trump had a go at Ilhan Omar, who was a Somali-born refugee who fled civil war when she was 12. And Trump said she's been saying horrible things about Israel and hates Jews. Well, if that country's being bombed by those people, then I'm not surprised. That's what happens. That's the consequences. It's like the Iranian people hate Americans now because they've shot down one of their drones. Or the Iraqi people hate Americans because we absolutely obliterated their country. You know, I could carry on for another hour. That's what happens. They're entitled to hate that country who's been bombing them into oblivion. And Mr. Trump needs to recognise that and deal with the problem. But the overall issue is Trump's initial comment has been taken totally out of context. And this goes back to political correctness. That's your speech control system working in its full glory. And political correctness was for these type of situations. It's what the system was designed for. And political correctness encourages racism and all kinds of so-called minority groups to get offended at anything and everything. And it's all designed for one group. And yet again, using the terminology of being a Jew or a Jewish person, but in real terms, it's about the Nazis, SS and Zionists. It's all about keeping the heat off those people. For those, like I said, who've listened to From Russia with Love, you can see it in its full glory and in action. And that's what political correctness is all about. That's why you're banned of investigating or speaking against one particular country. Why? Like there's an old saying, the truth never feared investigation. That's why I do Q&A. I've got nothing to hide. That's why I put out my transcripts, for people to see if I've changed the narrative. Anyone who wants to block anything from being investigated or talked about is covering up for a reason, and that's why political correctness was brought in. Last sub-intel, I think this was Tyler Durden again, if not mistaken. Could be wrong. But what happened with Deutsche Bank, which we reported about a few weeks ago, and the Quant Fund pulled its cash from the Deutsche Bank as a result of soaring counterparty risk just days before the full and to many devastating extent of the German lender's historic restructuring was disclosed. As per usual, certain clouds pull all kinds of funds out when they know it's going to sink. And the end result is a bank that is radically different from what the Deutsche Bank was previously. Now that Rentec is long gone and the questions about viability of Deutsche Bank are swirling, yes, it won't be insolvent overnight, but like the world's biggest melting ice cube, there is simply no equity value there anymore. This is what we've been saying. They've got no equity. In fact, it's negative. And what's been happening is everyone else has now decided to cut their risks with the bank, and it's 45 trillion euros worth in derivatives, which are mostly hedge funds, and they've now started a bank run, which has culminated in about $1 billion per day being pulled from the bank. They can't carry on that for much longer, and they will shut the doors, and others will follow. Now, as a result of this, which is like a modern version of a bank run and almost layman style lockup, which could freeze their funds indefinitely. So anyone who's got money in Deutsche Bank needs to get rid of it. Now, Deutsche Bank is considering how to transfer some 150 billion euros of balances, which is about $168 billion, which is held in its prime brokerage unit along with technology and potentially hundreds of staff, and transferring it to French banking giant BNP. Remember me talking about giant mergers? There you go. Right, let's get into the intel. Even though there was some intel on that, this is more up to date. Now, the RV, regurgitated vomit, back on July the 11th, 2012, we are now told was given a 7-year date for completion, according to the clowns. Even though the leading figures like the trustee Kim and Putin were told by the former trustee back in 2009-2010 that the RV was a ruse to distract people and it would never take place. Now, having lost control of the trust, they had to come up with new plans, and this is what you're seeing play out now with the Libra. Well, July the 11th, which is another one of their numbered ritual days, came and went, and the RV failed. It failed again on Monday, and it will fail again tomorrow. It's all nonsense, as we know. But as I show, clowns in panic revealed the current players in the global game are now being forced out. It's no longer a millionaire's game, but a multi-billionaire game, pushing out technology which then reduces the need for people to be in it. which saves them costs. Now essentially their costs was only doable with the trust and bank cheating with figures. Now that's all stopped. They're left with no alternative but to go the technological route, with the added bonus of removing loads of people out of their corporate structures, trimming the fat. And this is what mainly Kim and our show have been telling the minions, and most of the alt media believes that these minions are the top of the tree. They're nowhere near it. The alt media in general across the board covers the bottom dwellers of the former control system, and those bottom dwellers are now being cast out. They're being used as bait, and the public will be satisfied with mass arrests and the central banks and the Federal Reserve going, but the hidden top end clowns are the ones who are pushing it also, not just us. The problem is too many have worked out their game now, and they have become a costly liability, and they have no ability to afford it anymore. And this is what's playing out now. And this is also why Mr. Mnuchin this week was pushing for the 99-year renewal of the Federal Reserve. Remember, this ended in 2012. And no, that's not happening either, Mr. Mnuchin. It's just not. And they're hoping, because everything is in turmoil, we will just relent on our stance over them. Again, that's not happening. The Federal Reserve is spent, and everyone knows it, Mr. Mnuchin. And when I put out this latest information, and it goes globally, you're in big trouble, and so is the Federal Reserve. So why have they done this? Because they all realise now they're being pushed out of the game. Like I said, this is a multi-billion game now, with Draco offspawn Rothschilds pulling the strings. Yes, several others, the main one dropped, but several others stepped in, and this is what I've said all along. Removing one item doesn't mean to say it's not going to be replaced by another clown. Same in politics. You have to replace it with something better. So the old guard is now being dismantled by not only us, but them as well. And millions of people will get cast aside, particularly in the military, the agencies and the banking circles. Decentralisation in action, folks. This is what they're doing. They can't say we didn't warn them. Kim told them all extensively they would get swatted aside, and that is what's taken place. Next intel piece. The Federal Reserve has some of what's been going on, and how and why they've kept money afloat. And this should be listened to in every country around the world. This is what they've done to you. The Federal Reserve issues currency allocations, not only for America but also 148 countries and their currencies also. Now, under the Fed agreement that our treasonous Congress signed off on back in 1913, no other country can issue its own currency without the signature of the Federal Reserve. So the Fed's not only running America, it's the other 148 countries also. So when the Fed started putting fake super notes of US dollars in the system, they then did the same to the other 148 countries. But here's the kicker. Now, for those who are new, who don't know what super notes are, every dollar note or euro has an allocation number on it. It's probably a letter and a range of numbers. all numbers are documented and recorded, and there can only be one version of any allocation number. As the Fed was legally blocked from any more currency printing back around a decade ago, which requires new allocation numbers for those new notes, which they are also blocked from doing by Kim. The Fed and the Rothschilds clowns started printing notes via the De La Rue company with copy numbers of the original allocation numbered notes. These are your super notes, and they're all counterfeit. But here's the kicker. So the Fed started placing these notes in 148 countries and then began stealing the real notes. So say there was a note with A123 on it, there would be a super note with A123 on it. They would locate the original one, take it out and replace it with a super note. But this quantum system recognizes the super notes and started throwing them out. But now they have another problem, as they can't get the originals back into the system either. Oops. As now it would be flagged as a duplicate number by the system. So 148 countries now have over 80% of their currency in fraudulent money in circulation, making the Federal Reserve the largest counterfeit organisation in the world. And the whole world is being scammed by waiting for the Federal Reserve allocation numbers, which they said would come from the Fed. They can't allocate numbers. Only Kim can allocate new numbers. But message to all the other countries around the world: since 2017, no country needs to wait for the Fed for allocation numbers. You can just go directly to the trust. But at what point is the whole world going to get together and stop these harvesting agents looting every single country on a massive scale? This has gone on for 106 years now, 7 years. The countries have to get together. 148 countries are running around with 80% of super notes. Final intel item before a music break. I've been waiting for this day. The Draco Empire now has a new leader after Anu was discarded and dealt with, and there will be no more King Draco. The new leader is a queen and is currently displaying many characteristics of peace and harmony, which has not gone down well with the Draco minions in here, I might add. They're refusing to recognise her. That will come at a cost. And while at this stage can't fully trust what she's saying, what we can say is the energetics of this being is vastly different to the previous incumbent, and it augurs well should that stance continue. I, for one, welcome it as an opportunity to enhance the plan that I put forward 5 years ago of us all working together. Now, trust has to be built on both sides over time. Anu promised to help back in 2015 and went the opposite. And one hopes she takes up the suggestion I made to appoint the ambassador for her people on this planet as previously requested. She knows who it is, and so did Anu. And also ensure that the ambassador is not interfered with in any way, shape or form. That is a must. So that person is able to do the work unhindered by entities under the former regime. They have to be dealt with. She has the support of 75 to 80% of their home world, who grew tired of Anu, their family antics and wars, and wish to seek a new way based on cooperation and a common goal to be achieved between the two species. She is being supported by the Council, and we look forward to sharing ideas with her that, unlike ideas that were shared with Anu and promises were made and subsequently never followed through with them, maybe this one will be able to garner a mutual trust between the two species. My only advice to her is just don't meet up with agency or military clowns. Period. Those groups are not representative of we the people and have done more harm than good. We are not interested in fancy technology that can be weaponized, like almost every previous piece of tech that was reintroduced to us. We want solutions to stop the fighting, harvesting and blocking the development of not only those two species, humans and Draco, but many others as well. We'll be back shortly. Hi all and welcome back. Like a shockwave indeed. We look forward to earning some trust between us that has not been garnered for many thousands of years, and whilst it sounds all good, it does feel a lot different. Words can lie, as we know, and trust has to be gained over time. We have to see evidence. We will be pushing certain things that we need them to fix on this planet. That gives us a chance of moving forward, not only us but them also. There'll be more ET news later, or type of anyway. Let's get into some op-eds, and this is coming from Kevin. Kevin again. And a prominent Canadian Senator, Larry Campbell, has been issued a summons to appear before a September 16th genocide tribunal court in Vancouver. Now, the summons is being delivered this week to Campbell's office in Ottawa by the International Tribunal for the Disappeared of Canada, which has also summoned Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and 20 other officials. Now, you can check out Campbell's summons on Kevin's website. Now, Senator Larry Campbell is a former RCMP officer, the mayor and a chief coroner of Vancouver, and he was appointed to the Canadian Senate by the Prime Minister Paul Martin in August of 2005. Paul Martin himself is on a third-party list of people who may be summoned to appear before the tribunal as well. Now, 3 other individuals have also been summoned by the tribunal to give testimony in relation to Campbell's appearance. Convicted serial killer Willie Picton, an unnamed former operative of the Canadian Security Intelligence Service, and a former Vancouver prostitute. Now, according to the ITDC spokeswoman Ellen Bradley Dufort, Senator Campbell is being asked to appear before the tribunal to answer questions regarding his knowledge of missing and murdered Aboriginal women in the Greater Vancouver area. These questions will include the issue of the alleged complicity of the RCMP, government and church officials in the abduction, ritual torture, killing and disposal of these and other women. And when asked about why 3 other individuals are being summoned in relation to Campbell's subpoena, Bradley Dufort said all of these people have relevant testimony regarding Senator Campbell and the murder of an Aboriginal woman in British Columbia. And if Campbell and they are indicted by the tribunal, that testimony will become a matter of public record. This came across my path that I felt should be included in the op-ed pieces, which of course goes on the Patreon rather than the news, which doesn't, because people really need to get a grasp of what's going on with these clowns. And this is MW005 regarding vaccination policies and resolutions adopted by the Executive Council of the Episcopal Church, whose headquarters is in New York. Now, the Executive Council meeting in Lincoln Heights, Maryland, in June last month, between the 10th and the 13th, adopts the following policies with respect to vaccination standards within the Episcopal institutions and programs. All Episcopal institutions, programs, facilities and services must ensure the safety of participants, which should include requiring that all participants and staff participating are vaccinated in accordance with the United States Centre for Disease Control and Prevention and the immunization schedule and or applicable state law. And also, outside the United States, local health agencies, ordinances and protocols should be followed in place of the CDC immunization schedule, in the same spirit of ensuring participants are protected from preventable diseases through the use of immunization and the best available medical services and research, and be it further resolved that a participant may be exempted from this vaccination requirement only by presenting a certificate from a licensed physician to the staff stating that due to the physical condition of the participant, one or more specified immunizations would endanger the participant's life or health. Be it further resolved that the coordinator of applicable programs and facilities should review for completeness of the immunization records of all participants, staff and also volunteers for the safety of all involved in the program. Be it further resolved that dioceses, parishes, schools, camps, daycare and childcare programs and other programs at Episcopal facilities or sponsored by Episcopal institutions should strive to ensure funding is available or partner with charities to ensure that vaccinations can be made available so that no child is prohibited from participation due to financial burden of vaccination. And be it further resolved that the Chief Legal Officer is requested to create a model policy for the Church based on this resolution. So here's a church forcing all the daycare, the camps, the schools, the parishes, the childcare programs, the dioceses and other programs are forced vaccination people. The Church. And these hideous harvesting entities are a blight on this planet. They really are. With the fake morality books that none of the participants in the higher order of the Church follows. We all know that by now. It's rules for us and rules for them. And for those who keep asking how can I help, walk away altogether from all churches is helping. people who go there are feeding the beast. It's beyond awful, really is. Yet again, out of New York. And here's another one out of New York. Mr. Eric Trav Schneiderman, who's been resigned or fired, is an American lawyer and politician who served as the 65th Attorney General of New York from 2011 until his resignation, spelt F-I-R-E-D, in May. And Schneiderman, a member of the Democratic Party, previously served for 10 years in the New York State Senate. Now, Schneiderman resigned his position as Attorney General after it was reported that 4 women, including 3 former romantic partners, has accused him of sexual and physical abuse. You'd be surprised to know that Schneiderman was born in New York and born to a Jewish family. All there. Now, Schneiderman was the Democratic nominee for the New York Attorney General, and he denied being involved also in a hit-and-run automobile accident back in July 2010. And in August 2013, Schneiderman filed a $40 million lawsuit against Donald Trump for his Trump University, now known as Trump Entrepreneur Initiative, alleging it to be an unlicensed university and calling it a bait and switch scheme. Now, Trump denied all accusations, calling Schneiderman a political hack. Now, in May of last year, Jane Meyer and Ronan Farrow reported that Schneiderman had physically abused at least 4 women during his tenure as Attorney General. And according to the report, Schneiderman had between 2013 and 16 committed acts of violence against 4 women. And the women named was the blogger and activist Michelle Manning Barish, the author and actress Tanya Salvaratnam, an unnamed female lawyer, and a 4th woman. And the woman said that Schneiderman had repeatedly choked, hit or violently slapped them, all without their consent. Salvaratnam added that Schneiderman spat on her, choked her and called her his brown slave, ordered her to call him master, and said that she was his property, and demanded that she find another woman who would be willing to engage in a menage a trois. Now, Meyer and Farrow reported that they confirmed the woman's allegations with photographs of wounds and bruises, as well as with statements from friends in whom the women had confided in after the assaults. Now, Governor Andrew Cuomo, TikTok, assigned Nassau County District Attorney Madeline Singas as a special prosecutor to investigate possible criminal charges against Schneiderman, and in November of last year, Singas announced that Schneiderman would not be prosecuted. See how it works? Singas stated that she believed the allegations made by Schneiderman's accusers, but added that legal impediments, including statutes of limitation, precluded criminal prosecution. More babble, legalese, mumbo jumbo to just get it off and do whatever they like. Madeline Singas, April 3rd, 2018, appeared at a rally and spoke before an audience of about 200 people at the Temple Beth Israel synagogue in New York. Madeline Singas, born in New York, born to Jewish parents, hence why she wiped the Schneiderman case. Oops. We're going to go into some 3 or 4. Oh no, we got another piece. Some word magic that I need to cover, or I would like people to take note of. Genesis, the first book of the Pentateuch, which tells, amongst other things, the creation of the world, from the Latin Genesis, generation, nativity, it says. Perhaps it's generation, something else. And in late Latin, taken as the title of the first book of the Old Testament, from Greek Genesis, origin, creation, generation, from gignestai, which means to be born, and is related to genos, race, birth, and descent, to birth or beget, with derivatives referring to procreation and family and tribal groups. Here's the kicker. Greek translators use the word as the title of the biblical book, referring to Hebrew Bereshith, literally in the beginning, which is the first word of the text taken as its title, and the extended sense of origin creation, first recorded in England in the 1600s, is the first weekly Torah portion, parashah, in the annual Jewish cycle of the Torah reading. So this goes into the Garden of Eden, Genesis. And there's a name, Pishon, which, according to scholars, is a Hebrewized form of the Sanskrit name for the Hindus. Sanskrit is not India, it's Rus. Pishon, being the Hindus, means it's of India and Hindu, which tells you the Garden of Eden was in India, one of the 4 rivers. And the word Sindhu in India consists of sim, meaning region, and du, meaning to shake or tremble. As I said, Pishon is from the Garden of Eden. So Genesis, or is it generation Isis, stemmed from the Hebrew text as well. And that's further confirmation of the From Russia with Love series, is it not? Then we look up the word museum. Where did that come from? Of course, the most famous museums are called Holocaust museums, sadly. But there are others to show off art and all kinds of other stuff. But where did they originate? Well, same thing again. The university building in Alexandria. And originally it meant a temple, or a shrine of the Muses. Museum. It's all there. Then we look up the word repository. One alt media person likes to use. And book repository, from Biblion, book. Bib, lion. That's the original name for Bible. A reference to the cat again. And why are lions on all the bloodline family crests? It's the same group. Now the repository comes from the word chantel, which means for dead bodies, late 14th century, from Old French charnel of the 12th century, which meant fleshy, from the late Latin carnal, graveyard, and properly neuter of the adjective carnalis, from Latin carnis, which means of the flesh. And the root word means to cut. So they cut the flesh and put the dead bodies in the repository. All very covenish to me, feeding on the flesh, is it not? Then another word came up, which Court, this is the last one. Where did that come from? And what does it mean? Well, it started in the late 12th century, and it was a formal assembly held by a sovereign. This is why I've pulled it up. From French court, King's Court, and it also meant princely residence. Now, in the 11th century, modern French cour, without the T, from the Latin courtem, which came from cors, and earlier cohors, which means enclosed yard, and by extension and perhaps by association with curia, which means sovereign's assembly, those assembled in the yard, company or cohort, all assimilated form of com, which means with and together, and stem hort related to hortus, or is it Horace, garden, plot of ground, to grasp, enclose. Now, both senses of the Latin word emerged in English from the purely physical sense, meant palace, residence of a sovereign. Later on, it was called an enclosed space connected with a building or buildings, and in the sporting sense, a smooth, level plot of ground on which a ball game is played. That was from 1510 of tennis. There was also a short arm of a public street enclosed on three sides by a building in 1680, and formerly noted for poverty or as business districts, and the notion of surroundings of a sovereign by his legal state. Now, also in the 1200s comes the legal meaning, a tribunal for judicial investigation, and in the 1300s, early assemblies for justice were overseen by the sovereign personally, and also hall or chamber where justice is administered. This begs the question, the reason I put it in, for the law people, not legal, whether courts are valid under a non-sovereign administration. Think about that. Court, a formal assembly held by a sovereign. These people are not sovereign. It's not being ran under a king either. As for the tennis game, set and match, game also means to hunt. Set means set an. Match means to light a fire. Or is it juice or Zeus? And when people find out how and why Andy Murray rose up the ranks, not negating his talent, by the way, but once you find out the backstory to it, it shows the influence it can have and can be invasive into society, and random acts are not that random at all. A formal assembly held by a sovereign. I hope the law people can help with that. Back in November of 2015, I did a show termed The Faction Show. That was way ahead of the curve, as most of the alt media, in fact all of the alt media, was still talking about the Illuminati, which hadn't existed for nearly a decade by then. And it gave people a future opportunity to see the bigger picture further down the line. Now, I've spoken about certain alt media and YouTube shows being faction based, and yes, you will get lots of juicy intel on the other factions, but they're still operating for and by their faction, so you won't get all the details. But what is happening now is factions are battling for control of this planet, and they're throwing each other under the bus big time. People are now seeing it. This is what we're seeing with the pedo stuff, the fraud, the corruption, and both figuratively and metaphorical assassinations on a number of leading figures. Maybe the clue is in the sub-intel pieces. But Hollywood being a prime example, and of course Weinstein is the main one of that. So why are they throwing Hollywood under the bus? Because Hollywood has run its course, and they've now switched the arena to Vancouver, British Columbia is why. You go and check up most of the films and the shows, they're all coming out of Vancouver now. The recent focus on Area 51, and loads of people are going there to find ETs. Good luck with that. If there are any there, you won't like it. And the media, alt and mainstream, are happy to play along. Why? Because Area 51 was emptied out back in April of 2013 is why. Nice distraction. Why Mnuchin and others are focusing on the Fed and the IRS? Because the top-end clowns want to replace it with a decentralized system is why. Again, these are evidences of faction game playing. Why the focusing of legalizing pot? Because they plan to take over the whole operation via the Bayer company. Bayer is Rothschilds, is why. You see, the CIA ran it and made vast funds from it, but the cost of running it was becoming prohibitive. Involved all kinds of gun running, paying off drug lords, one of whom got jailed this week, Escobar. We'll have more on him in a later show. And also, the CIA started attracting too much controversy. So they present it to the public, who think they've forced the authorities into legalising it. Wrong thinking, and also naive. We've already reported that the existing pot farms that started up in California are all going out of business. That's what they do. It's like when they banned alcohol, called prohibition. It was all just a ruse to get certain mafia families, and also the Kennedy family, untold riches. That's what took place. The high-end society carried on. It was only the masses that couldn't make money off it. And as only they controlled it, so when it all came back out, they were in the position to run the entire operation and make more money. It's all about cutting people out of the game. And this is what's going on now with the factions. They're cutting each other out of the game. So it's a case of follow the hidden trail, not the well-beaten path. And it's not always a case of follow the money either. We'll have a music break, and then we're going to come back with some solutions and a few more real interesting op-ed pieces. Where are we next? Hi all, and welcome back. Ooh, this next piece. So the word out on the street again of it's all coming has perforated the alt media narrative, and this time the back chatter is about the Hillary Hoomer abetting video. Now, the world, and in particular this country, is in enough trauma without adding something that cannot be unseen. People think that that sort of shit happens only in horror movies. No, horror movies replicate what they do in private. Stories today of royal family being thrown under the bus, faction you see, and others who were having children hunting parties where the children are stripped naked, told to run in the woods, and then they get shot at. Now, where have we seen that before? Yes, Hunger Games. You getting the picture now? Some things are just too heinous to see, and that case of that video is one of them. What benefit will people get from being severely traumatized in that manner? What will do people consider what effect it will have on the family and the circle of the child in the video? How is it going to affect them, that video being splashed everywhere? And these are the future thinking things that people have to consider. This is not on a level of rubbernecking car crashes along the road. This is real live action crimes of the most hideous nature imaginable. And it's not easily chomped on in a sin-eating way either. It cannot be slowly digested like most pieces in my shows. This is a full-on body slam that is not easily absorbed or processable. It's just not. There is a saying, be careful of what you ask for. This is one you will severely regret asking. But there is sufficient who know of this, where it took place, who is involved, and written and video evidence that requires no media circus or snake oil lawyers and their system of denial of all facts. We don't need it. As I mentioned as a solution many years ago now, which seems to be gathering popularity, a military tribunal is the only way forward with these type of people. Many of those in the military have already seen or done similar horrors, and so are better able to cope with it. Now, what I'm suggesting is go one step further. Give those involved a formal hearing and outline what they've done. There's no point in having a defence lawyer, as that is beyond defendable even for lawyers, which is debatable. No firing or death squads. None. Far too much blood has been spilt on this planet, and it is of esoteric value and knowledge to not do that path. I get many will want blood or hanging, but why replicate their levels of violence? And also, have you considered that that is an easy way out for many of these horror criminals? So what are the alternative solutions? Get Hillary, Hoomer, Podesta and many others on national TV and read out the full list of their crimes. No redacted bits, no plea bargains, can I say this or not say that. The full unredacted list of crimes on their own mind control box known as the TV. That is called Ironic Justice, Part 1. Ironic Justice, Part 2 is then they are transported and housed underground in the very bunkers they used to torture, kill and sexually abuse the children in the bunkers underneath Epstein Island itself. This will give them time to ponder their criminality in the very place many of them exerted their power over the children, and maybe some of the children left on that island, still in spirit form, will get some closure and justice for themselves also. This puts them all miles away from the general public. No outside contact, no visitors, and no perks, with no chance of parole. Their only role is to correct as much of themselves before their time is up here, and work off some karma so as to not infect future timelines with their dark desires and intentions. That's the best form of justice, ironic justice. All those that have participated in those several levels underneath the temple can be changed into jails. It was the jail for those children. Put them in the same place where they committed the acts. And the Nexium people, and the Weinstein people also. Put all the pedophiles on Epstein Island. It's easy to control. It requires less staff, so we're not wasting public money on them. We don't need the circus act of lawyers and mainstream TV pontificating over a trial that is a complete and utter waste of money and time. And that's the way it should be dealt with. The piece last week, there'll be another music break after this. It's a fairly short break because I needed to put a couple of pieces together, and there was also an additional piece tonight. But the piece last week about the message to Trump brought up different emotions. It inspired some, bothered others, and some went into the shells of it all a bit too much to fix. But the American people, and indeed the rest of the world, needs to find out the real truth of their country, culture or race to give us an opportunity to move forward. You know, truth is brutal at times. It causes projection, it causes pain and hurt. But only because those traits were not faced by the individual sooner. The sooner you deal with it, the less of a problem it is. But the gist of the last piece was, I do not see America or its people's legacy being based on war and military traits. That to me is a slap in the face to the people. There's many Americans here who don't have a violent bone in their body, and yet they were broad swept across the world in with the nation's triumphs of wars of the past, 90% of which is total bullshit. So, no, Mr. Trump or whoever else wrote that script, the American people do not want to be remembered or revered for killing people in wars, many of which were fake. In fact, all of them were. The US military, as we mentioned previous, have been poisoning its own people, does not define America or Americans, because the reality is they've never ever represented America, only the US, which is not and never was America to begin with. It only represented the agents of death and destruction, and it's not something to be proud of, and people need to quit chanting USA. You are reinforcing and consenting to that program and its energy thought form. We're not USA. This country is America. United States belongs in the Congress of Vienna from 1812 in Europe. These same people have rained poisons down from our skies, and not just chemtrails either. Nuclear fallout from the Vegas testing area, all kinds of biowarfare dropped on unsuspecting towns and cities all over this country. It's all there in the released documents archive. In fact, 2 added reports came up today. The fire foam and the ticks that cause Lyme disease, released by the military. And it's come at a staggering cost in terms of financial terms, but more importantly a staggering loss in terms of quality of life for people, and a substantial loss of lives as well. The people don't want to be remembered here for wars. They want to be remembered here for the many good things they do, either paid or voluntary, not wars. And the people want an opportunity to really participate in fixing the filth that pervades this country. The people no longer want to pay for criminality and wish to enhance all people's lives, not just a few venture or real-term vulture capitalists that surround Mr. Trump. The people no longer want to pay the IRS to fund other countries, groups or families either. Fix it. The people no longer want a fake foreign banking system harvesting everything known as the Federal Reserve. Fix it. And the people no longer wish to be ruled by the crown either. You were given sovereignty on a plate. Fix it. It certainly is time for a cool change. This was supposed to be the last 2 pieces. There will be a final piece before we end tonight's show. And this next piece was kind of bandied around in the MeWe chat this week, and I felt it was important to put it out to a wider audience. And it's all about energy. It's the most precious resource on the planet, bar none. But what is energy, and how do we view it and interpret it? It is a key thing in understanding life on a much deeper level, and far too many just take it for granted. A bit like the cells piece done last week. Now, energy can be positive and negative, but it's also neutral. It is the neutral aspect that people need to engage. Why? Because it's not yet formed. And so it can be transmuted and manifested into something more positive. Now, one of the big problems over energy is a lot of the New Age shit was highly damaging on an energy level. Too few understand it and how it works. Grounding, crystals, stones, amulets, all riddled with energy. And yet how many stop and think, is this object laced with negative energies from previous holders or the region it came from? And the answer is largely no. People assume it's great and vibrant because the marketeers who sold you it told you so. These crystals give you this or that energy, they say. But how many crystals or stones that you purchased came with a warning to clear them of the previous energy before you used them? None. And therein lies the problem. People assume that they are good and ready to use because someone else with no knowledge or awareness has told them so. Now, Chloe mentioned an incident in her Evening with Thomas show of how I helped a member of Cosmic Voice with an entity that was pushing his wife over and causing all kinds of issues. You know, her main issue was her husband. I'm sure older members will attest to that. Maybe I should have left the entity there. But that particular agent had travelled all over the world, and I've been to many of the historical sites like Chichen Itza and Tibet and various others, and along the way collected trinkets from these various sites. And he had quite a collection in his front room, which freaked them out as to how I knew that he had them in the front room. But there you go. Those trinkets carried lots of negative energy and pulled in negative spirits, although his excessive drinking habit pulled in quite a few more. But because he thought they were all from spiritual sites like Mount Shasta, which is actually Mount Shyster, because they're all shysters that go there, he assumed the objects from there would be spiritual also. Like I said, that New Age program did far more damage than people realise. You must never assume anything. You should investigate it, explore all the possibilities of it, and then come to your own conclusions. And this is what future thinking brings to the table. This is my action. Now, what are the consequences of such action? That's how you future think. Like yoga, it can be very therapeutic, but I had to make people aware of the issues surrounding it, as the so-called experts will not tell you that. And it's not entirely their fault either, as that information has rarely been revealed. But any pulling in or drawing off of energy has to be assessed first. And the same applies to crystals and stones and praying if you must, Tai Chi, massages, healing, etc. We are not told of these things. You go to a healer. What if that healer hasn't cleared the negative energy from the previous patient? You cannot assume that the healer knows that. Like the fake shamans in North America and South America, they haven't got a clue. Giving people ayahuasca, not a clue. All they're interested in is money. So we're not told of these things, and it has been costly. This is where possession comes in. And that lack of knowledge needs to be assessed by everyone. The same applies to sexual engagement in new relationships or one-off encounters. You're not just sleeping with the one person. You are engaging the sexual energies of who that person slept with previously, unless it's over 7 years. Grounding is another thing overlooked. Why assume all ground is beneficial? Mother Earth is infected in various places, is she not? What if it was a form of burial ground in the past? Imagine the trauma energy surrounding it, and these things have to be considered before you engage it. There's been wars all over this planet. The soil has been poisoned with all sorts. Dark spirits and negative energy people have trampled all over it, have they not? And yet you assume that the ground is beneficial to you. It only becomes beneficial when you prepare and create that space. You have to clear the field before engaging. Same applies to the stones. People often ask, what can I do? Do people think, well, what if I decide here on forward that every step I make is clearing the dark energies of before? Ponder on that for a few seconds. The answer is likely no, you haven't, because people don't think deep enough or accept the responsibility of being the change. And once you really think on a deeper level and remove the lack of belief in yourself, there's no end to what you can do to change the world. Only your own self-imposed limitation and distraction programs stifles that. We overlook energy trails and frequency remnants far too easily. And so the object of me saying all this is to get people to think, not just assume. Clear your field and shield before engaging anything that draws on or engages energy. I hope that's been helpful. This was to be of the final piece, and it's a message going out to the clowns. I know you listen. I know you're getting frightened, and we know you're scared. The clown minions, the likes of Mnuchin and several other high-profile names, your money cash cows, slush funds, trust accounts, black project funds, brown envelopes, offshore hidden accounts have all but vanished. Period. They're not coming back. First, M cut you all off, and then we added to it. But now they are cutting you off and leaving you to swing at the behest of the masses. You know it, and we know it. Now is your time to make a choice of your own for the first time ever in public offices. Your choice, not theirs. You've all danced to the tune of global hegemony, and all because you fell for their seducements of money, power and fake titles. None of it's real, and all of it's an illusion. All of you know less of what is and what has gone on than the average THI, off-planet radio or Circle of White show listeners. Why is that? Because of the classic program of you don't need to know. Again, all of that is an illusion as well, designed to make certain ones feel more important and subsequently distracted. You've all followed orders and done as you were told, just like children. All of your working lives, your thinking is childlike, your behaviour, manners and demeanour also. Your public scrutiny is unlikely to go away. Why? Because too many now know what you've all done. And the top-end clowns will enhance that against you as time goes forward with a steady release of pictures, documents and videos to enhance your own downfall. Your warning that no one is safe was given in the UK a few years ago, was it not? When the tabloid papers in the UK showed old photographs of the Queen doing Nazi hand signals. You don't think that was random, do you? That was Dragon Faction Wars pro-pagan Dar. Period. So if the Queen's not going to survive the cull, what chance have you got? The generals of the US military, you're in big trouble. Do you think your fake badges will save you? They won't. But going forward, those badges will be useless, as you are about to be replaced as the chosen group of destruction, which you all bought into with the bollocks of fighting for freedom. Your culture, which they created for us, culture is a divide and conquer program, or worse, religious faiths, another program designed for divide and conquer, which you all gladly played along with and got pallets of fake currencies or nice shiny rewards to pin on your jackets for killing people. Did at any time in your childlike thinking brain consider that was wrong? All those people wiped out because somebody else told you to do so? Did you ask why they would want to do that? Or just followed orders for protection of your own status and positions? There's a common child scolding technique used by parents, where the child blames somebody else for their actions. And the response was, if someone asked you to put your hand in the fire, would you do it? I'm sure most of us have heard that term. And yet you people in the military did it every single time. Your hands must be like Freddy Krueger's face by now. You got burnt every single time. Do you not understand dark lessons? Clearly you never, as you keep repeating it, just like the RV is coming 2 or 3 times a week for over a decade now. Calling it stupid at this point is beyond an understatement. But to the US generals, your replacement is the new Rothschild's army, called NATO. Anagram of Aton. Look it up. Same people doing the same things for many thousands of years. And this is why the Paris Climate Agreement is prevalent. All countries signing up for it have to give 2% of their GDP to fund NATO. Not the US military. And other control system enforcements of which you will not be a part of. They're trimming the fat, and despite your blind loyalty to the cause, you are still considered part of the fat that needs to be trimmed. This is what is happening. They already forced you into selling off all of your military hardware equipment, did they not? And now you're in the quite frankly ridiculous position of leasing it back from the very people who are about to close you down. Has your hello McFly moment kicked in yet? Because it needs to. If you think this is a future event, you missed the warning. It's already happened. Look around you all. Look for yourselves, not follow others' orders for once. The country you are professing to love, cherish, honour and protect, it's all collapsed around you, all under your watch. Step down and step away from the clowns and their psychopathic orders and do the right thing. Come and join us and help fix this mess. Agency people also. You've been strung along playing a spying game only to find out that you were the ones being spied upon. All of you should know this by now. If you don't, find out. Can't be much of a spying agency if people not connected to the agency know more than you do. Step down, come and help. It will save you. The old program will kill you all off. They've already started it, in case you hadn't noticed. You all know who we are. You all know where we're located, and you know where to contact us and arrange a 1 to 3 day meeting. In that 1 to 3 days, we can change everything with detailed plans and thinking. with real solutions, real ideas, real promises that will get delivered, and a guaranteed future for us all. Currently, those in the US military and certain agencies have no future. Those in the other world, your time is up. We knew it 7 years ago. You just carried on being the puppets on a string, thinking your fake titles and supposed levels of authority or a clearance was going to save you, or allow you to carry on in a special group category, the golden tickets. Remember that? There is no golden ticket for lower minions, and you are part of the lower minions. Suck it up. You played your role, and now they are finished with that product. No, I'm the head of blah blah, that won't happen to me. Really? Think JFK, think Gaddafi, think Hussein, think Lincoln, think Tsar Nicholas and a plethora of other leading figures who were all puppets to the system until they no longer had any use for them, and all of them cast aside like cattle in an abattoir. This is your new reality. They no longer want you on their payroll, and you are now rendered the same level as us, useless eaters. Don't believe me? Then carry on and watch it all unfold. You won't have to wait long. You won't see it coming, because it's already happened. Carrying on trying to revitalise old money systems, old banking systems, old control systems, when they have all failed, is beyond stupid and completely delusional. They lost. And as one of their puppets, so did you. Everything in this world is about branding and marketing. Throw in labels and you have your whole control system in place, like Microsoft with their Windows package. It reached a critical point and optimal, and that was Windows 7. All that followed went downhill with each successive level. The Cabal, of which you are just a puppet, reached its optimal in 2007, and M pulled the plug on you all. It won't get plugged back in. He had what he wanted. Everything you clans gave to him on a plate in exchange for fake paper, titles and illusion of superiority. And bang, all of it gone. You were all given the illusion that you were all so clever and all so important. It blinded you to what is reality and what is not. And an all too common human mistake, is it not? Fallen for the lies, fallen for the seducement, and fallen for the illusion. You have all spent 12 years now trying to change it back to what it was. It will never go back to what it was. It's all done. That time, timeline, and frequency all vanished into the ether, and a new path was charted for you when you are ready. Currently, you are not. You still believe you can get back into the game, still believe you will find the missing pieces to complete the jigsaw. Newsflash, your parents threw your games and jigsaws out in the trash a long time ago, and playing Peter Pan will no longer work. This new timeline and path will be an adult world progression we are heading for. We will no longer be held back by children in adult bodies. And it's time to get out of your diapers and get some big boy and girl pants on and act like adults. It will be a long transition, go from a childlike species to an adult one. And we need as many on board to achieve it as possible. We welcome all minions to come and join us on our journey. And it's time you transferred yourself from their world into ours. We've all been fooled, abused, lied to and deceived on a massive scale throughout all levels of society. You carry on believing in fantasy and conspiracy, or joined those you labelled conspiracy theorists, but actually spoke more of the truth than you could handle. Those who can't handle the truth are children, no matter what their age is. The child mind will no longer serve you, as the teachers of stupidity who taught you your truths have all but vanished. Your schools are closed permanently. That last statement may hurt or disturb some, and I'll make no apologies for saying it, because it is the truth. Those that cannot face truth or reality is child mind level oriented, all waiting for a parent to come and soothe you with a pacifier. Mummy, the nasty scary monster man is saying bad things. There, my child, don't listen to him. It'll all go away. Not this time. They have to face it, discuss it, process it and deal with it like a supposed adult. This planet has had enough of our childlike behaviours. Don't believe we are childlike? Go and look at any blog or chat of what people get offended by. It's beyond pathetic. We have no backbone. And far too many people walk around in their own insecure worlds, frightened of anything and everything, just like a child. We got rid of the parents who controlled us for so long. We got rid of their energy harvesting system called the banks. We got rid of their off-world imposters, Draco et al. We negotiated a peace deal with the others. We exposed the length, breadth and depth of their system. We exposed the real control system for likely the first time in history. We rendered the bloodline families mute. We ended their matrix, simulation, veils, their overlay systems, their soul traps, reincarnation and harvesting systems. We attained positions of humans on the Galactic Council for the first time in history, and much more over just this decade. All of that wasn't done to drag billions of Peter Pan style adults around the world and save them from their own stupidity. It was done to progress the species, and those who wish to morph out of their child avatar and into a new world, making adult decisions, adult thinking, adult actions and adult behaviours. Currently, they are the very few. But we welcome many more to join our world and leave the old world illusion behind. We'll be back shortly. Hi all, and welcome back to the final piece tonight. That last piece is going out to all the US military, the generals, all the minions in the Treasury, Federal Reserve, IRS, agency people. It's them that wants you dead. I'm not going to keep warning you. You're watching it erode away around you. You don't need some badge person to tell you it's happening. Think for yourselves. You're all getting replaced. This is what we've been warning you and what Kim's been telling you for the last 2 or 3 years. You didn't listen. This final piece that was added, I've held back. I've had it for over a month. Certain events all took place in early June. That those that took part in it were hoping it would change things on a much grander scale than few can imagine. Those have been hinted at in different shows. I'm not going to tell you which ones. And we were hoping the culmination of those events would all converge into a complete reversal of certain aspects here and chart a new path for the organic human souls and other organic beings here. The changes were felt, and we smiled. But Kim got a message a week or so later that confirmed many things. And like I said, this has been held back for a bit for certain other things to unfold, reveal, or were operational. And this is what you will hear now. 13th of June 2019. All the timelines have now converged. This is the beginning of the new time. Pure time unaltered by the past. At approximately 5:01 EST, the convergence was complete. There will be no longer memory of other timelines as you go forward. Change takes place only in the present. Evil beings trapped in the dimensional planes will be absorbed by the nothing and go forth into the darkness. Your strength will come from the knowingness that this is the dawning of a new day. This is similar to your judgment day you have in your books. Do not be surprised to see many human lives fall away. This is because they were not human souls to begin with, but merely a mirror from another plane or point in time. As each layer falls away, there will be a new sense of understanding amongst the general population of Earth. Congratulations, since the dawn of creation, there's not been such unity in the oneness of all. We are proud to welcome you to the dawning of a new age, one full of possibilities of the Creator. Once again, in an ever-expanding universe, no longer stifled by the darkness we have all felt for eons. King Anu has passed on as a direct result of his misdeeds in this universe, and Earth will no longer be plagued by this insidious race of beings. His passing would have been around 1 AM Eastern Standard Time, June the 13th. The Mantic Queen who's far worse than Anu in many aspects, in my opinion anyway, has thrown down her arms in favour of a peaceful alliance with the Universal Council. You too will feel this change as the shift becomes more apparent throughout the days. As the rightful heir to the throne granted by our Creator in his infinite wisdom, the king shall not rise again, but instead a queen will take his place to ensure no more suffering for his children. This is the word of Source, the Creator, the oneness that binds us all. You will see the sword of truth cut through all that has bound us as slaves. In time, all will reveal itself unto you. Lead the charge. Do not waver. We know the journey has been long, but your unwavering faith has led you and in turn us to this point. Thank you for having faith in us. Your leadership forward will be most welcome and critical. The probationary period is over, and the Council welcomes you as a full member of the Leadership Committee. This has been the Truth, Honour and Integrity Show. My name's Thomas Williams. I'll be back on Saturday at 8 PM Eastern Standard Time with From Russia with Love 6. You best get ready for that. The final song, Can I Take You Higher? I would love the opportunity to do so. Bye for now.